Okay, so it's December 11th, 2020. We're talking about Hanukkah tonight. So I went through and started to take a look at this, and I went, what date is it first? Because I started, okay, Hanukkah's tonight, we go through next Friday. I pulled up other places, Hanukkah's last night. So I'm going to choose Michael Root, guy I met years ago. Started out as a Christian guy, now he's like way crazy messianic, like priestly garb and all kinds of stuff. He's got his TV program, Rude Awakening. He's quite a character, but he's trying to keep the calendar the way God said by planting the barley on the Temple Mount, and he calculates everything by that. So I went to his site. Tonight's the first night out. Now some of you guys I know started last night. Bear with us and just please start with us tonight again. And I picked him because anybody trying to do it just simply the way God says to do it, that's my vote. You know what I mean? Years ago, they decided to set a pattern calendar because they lost track of the barley harvest. Well, I forget, it's probably almost been a decade or so. He got with the Orthodox Jews and started planting the barley again, going, what are you guys doing? Torah says plant barley. Why don't you plant barley? And they went, okay. And he made that bond between Christians and Orthodox Jews who don't understand who the Messiah is. And just because Torah said it, they were doing it. So we'll go with that. If you're already in a day, just bear with us and have an extra day on Hanukkah this year. Right? There's always a problem with the calendar when you get to this. So we're going to look at Hanukkah, and tonight there's only one Bible verse that really points to Hanukkah. It's in John 10. I'm going to start with verse 19 because there's a lot going on in this story. So it's John 10. We'll start with verse 19. Jesus has been doing miracles and all kinds of stuff, and it's been causing people all kinds of grief in the temple. They don't know what to do with this guy. Is he not? Back and forth, back and forth. But he's doing stuff that only God can do. But yet, he's not going with all the traditions. So they're really in an uproar. So we'll start at verse 19. And there was division, therefore, again, among the Jews for these sayings. And many of them said, he hath the devil and is mad. Why hear ye him? Others said, these are not the words of him that hath a devil. Can a devil open the eyes of the blind? And it was in Jerusalem, the feast of dedication, and it was winter. Stop right there. That's Hanukkah. There's only one feast of dedication in the winter, and that's Hanukkah. So Jesus is there at Hanukkah in the temple. Let's continue. And Jesus walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. And when he came to the Jews round about him and said to him, how long dost thou make us to doubt? If thou be the Christ, tell us plainly. Jesus answered them, I told you, and you believe not. The works that I do in my Father's name, and they bear witness of me. But ye believe not, because you're not of my sheep. As I said to you, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish. Neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. My Father which gave them me is greater than all, and no man is able to pluck them out of my Father's hand. And I and my Father are one. And the Jews took up stones again to stone him. Controversy, persecution, in their face, they're in his face. But Jesus never stopped doing exactly what the Father wanted. That's why he was there. They were all celebrating this Feast of Dedication. And his presence there says to me that he approved of what they were celebrating. So, what were they celebrating? There was quite a few things as we go through. But when we get to the temple part, in a nutshell, we'll start with that one, then we'll kind of unroll it. The pagan teachings and the pagan idols and all the things that were in the temple, this was a time of getting that out of your life and returning to the simplicity of what Yahweh taught in Torah, right? What the Torah is all about, what God's word is all about, and get the pagan stuff out. It was a cleansing. That's, in a nutshell, how it started. That's the seed that got sprouted and brought forth Hanukkah. There were so many problems, and their kids were being taught stuff that they hated, that they knew was wrong, and it grieved them in their hearts. How many can say amen to that in this country today? You send your kids to school. You know what they just announced they're bringing into Phoenix? That's 1619 or 1623. It's a whole thing about slavery that's written to bring nothing more than chaos, hatred, division, and racial tension. And it's not a true explanation of slavery in this country. And they just announced they're doing it, but please pray for the schools. So at the same time that we're looking at Hanukkah, it parallels a lot what's going on here. Christians hold their nose, pray hard for their kids, and send them to school. Then they get out and they pay money to send them to college, and many of them lose their kids to secular humanism in college. And they lose everything they've learned about God, who He is, what the Bible says, and that they can believe and trust in God's word. So, similar time, and in some ways. So let's go through this, and we'll get through this. And I got a lot of notes, guys. Let's hope this goes well. Then we're gonna have a great meal. We'll light the candles and do Hanukkah here tonight. So Hanukkah is the word for dedication, the 8-day Jewish festival bearing the name. It's also the festival of lights. Remembers the dedication of the temple in Jerusalem after being recovered from the Jewish forces by Yehuda Maccabee. That was in 164 BC. The Assyrian king Antiochus Epiphanes, the fourth forerunner of the Antichrist, if you look at it that way from Daniel 11:21, seeking to coerce the Jews into abandoning their religion and culture for that of Greece, added edicts forbidding circumcision, observance of the Jewish Sabbaths and feasts and festivals. And he defiled the temple by offering a sow on the altar and raised up in the sanctuary a statue to Zeus. Imagine if they come into the churches where we go and we assemble and say, you're not going to teach us anymore. You're going to teach what we tell you, and we're going to change the way you want to decorate your church with symbols that we want you to understand, and we're going to put you to death if you go back to what you learned about the Bible, if you go back to your simple faith. That's what these guys are fighting. As we go through, a small group of Jews, about 400, defeated about 4,000. The stories go different ways, of those that held the temple, and they got it back. When they got it back, they wanted to rededicate the temple. A lot of cleaning, and they had to light the lights. And they found one cruse of oil with the stamp of the right priest, the true priest that was supposed to be over the temple. He had been replaced too by his brother who had turned to Hellenism. And they found one cruse of oil. And they lit the lamp and prayed, and the lamp went for 8 days. That's the 8 days of miracle of Hanukkah. 8 days for one cruse of oil until they could get more oil to continue to add to the lamp. There's so many different things. I could go on and on. But what's the purpose of this? What's the purpose of Hanukkah? It's not an extra celebration or a celebration about Christmas. It's actually, if people are honest and you look at what was in that temple, Zeus, sun god, all those worship things, it's to say that you need to return to the truth. Cleanse your lives, return to the truth. Right? Tammuz's birthday was what? December 25th. It's always been December 25th. Centuries before Jesus was born. Tammuz's birthday, December 25th to 23rd, however you celebrate. But when we look at Hanukkah, they pushed all that stuff out that was taught to their kids and said, listen, go back to what God says and return. So there's a miracle of the lights, and there's also the miracle of the battle. Hanukkah is a pretty volatile holiday. How many listen to Jonathan Cahn or listen to some of his teachings? He's got a whole thing on Hanukkah. He believes Hanukkah is the end time revelation or feast. It's not ordained. God didn't say celebrate Hanukkah, but it represents that we can trust God even if we're outnumbered, even if it looks bleak, even if we are in a bad place. We return to God. He'll back us up. And you should listen, pull it up. It's a good thing to listen to. Pull up his teaching on Hanukkah. He says in the end times, the church is going to have to get down to it and be a little more than just quiet and passive. And the church is going to have to stand up and say, enough's enough. You're not going to kill babies down the street from my house and dump their blood into the sewers and let it run through our city. We're done. It's over. You're not going to teach my kids that God didn't create the world. You're not going to, and on and on and on. There's going to come a point where we're going to have to stand up and do more than just pray, and God will show us how to do it. Could be with just very simply standing up and saying no, and things will change. By who we put in power, who gets elected. So interesting to see how this election is going forward, right? How many believe that it can still continue in a way like the prophets have said will happen? And some of the prophets that talk about Trump being the two-term president are saying if he does not serve a second term after the first one, we have to get on our knees and say, who do we hear from? Because it wasn't God. And these are prophets that's a pretty humble thing. I really admire a prophet that would say, if I got it this badly wrong, I have to go back and say, where do I find you, God? And what are you really saying? We're in a tough time. It's interesting. We'll see what happens as it goes forward. But so was it in this time. You can look at the apocryphal books, the first and second Maccabees, and get the account of some of this stuff. The assimilation or anti-assimilation, depending how you look at it, the Hellenization or Greekifying, if I look at it that way, of taking a culture, they would take whoever they conquered and say, okay, you need to listen to our traditions. You need to listen to our teachings about the gods that we worship. You need to put your gods out of the way. It's kind of like today. Did you hear what the mayor of New York's going to do? He's going to bring the full power of the law against the Jewish synagogue that continues to meet if they don't stand down. Is this America anymore? I don't think so. We're in an interesting time, and so was it here. So this excites me because I'm watching people pray, and we're watching, and I want to see what God's going to do. Are we not in an exciting time? At least you can all say that. We're in an exciting time. I'm not worried. God hasn't given me any fear on this. I know he's got this, but I'm watching going, how are you going to pull this off? Right? How have you been that way in your life once in a while, right? You have a problem or something, and then he's like, whew, I'm so glad that things go.
It's so epic, you're going to know it came from God.
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting that way, isn't it? I love that you put it. It's going to have to be so epic that everybody will know that God did this. Because when you look at everybody that's against this, it's amazing. Even Facebook. Did you hear what they're doing? They will not allow any transmission of ideas that say that the election had a problem.
Yep.
They're just going to shut it down.
It's so crazy.
It is crazy. And here we are. So many places are, if you have more than 5 people in your house, who are they to tell me that I can't trust my God with my life? Why? Who says that my freedom ends where their fear begins? That's wrong. It's churning. You can feel it. You can hear it. And I'm just praying that God does this in a way that it's not too violent. Because I know about you guys. I was watching TV the other day and I caught something up at the cabin. I got back from elk hunting. It was awesome. Got up there and I was watching the TV and they showed the picture of Rambo. You know Rambo? Sweat, just face set for battle. And this guy said, I'm an American. I'll fight for my country. I'll die for my country. Will you? Like throwing the glove down going, oh boy. This is boiling over. And then everybody scrambled to cover what he said. He said, oh my goodness, it wasn't that bad. He didn't really mean there was going to be a problem. Yeah, right. There may be problems. We need to keep praying. So you get back and look at this. When you go through, there was a lot of inside stuff going on, right? One of the priest was removed, and another took his place, who wasn't supposed to be priest. It was a priest appointed by the Greeks. There's so many things. So many people are in places that probably shouldn't be there. So many people have sworn oaths that shouldn't be there. So as we go through, there was enough. There was just a couple things. Let me read. Hanukkah celebrations, rededication of the temple after the defilement, right? And Judas this is Maccabees 4:59. Then Judas and his brothers and all the assembly of Israel determined that every year at the season of days of dedication of the altar should be observed with joy and gladness for 8 days, beginning the 25th day, the month of Kislev. Moreover, Hanukkah originally reassembled Sukkot party because the Maccabees were forced to celebrate Sukkot in the wilderness. Isn't that interesting? Because of the persecution, they went back to what they're supposed to do. They celebrated for 8 days with rejoicing in the manner of the festivals of booths, remembering how not long before, during the festival of booths, they had been wandering in the mountains and caves like animals. Hanukkah was thus established to echo Sukkot and commemorate the triumphs of the ancient band of brave Jews who stood up for their way of life and faith in the one true God in face of overwhelming odds. Then later, when the rule of Hamoines prevailed, they defeated the Hellenes, and they searched and finally found a tiny pitcher of oil which bore the seal of the high priest. And it was enough oil to last no more than one day. And a miracle occurred. It was endured for 8 days. For this reason, a period of 8 days was marked of thanksgiving and praise. The oil miraculously burned for 8 days, which was the necessary time to prepare a new supply of sacred oil for the temple menorah. That was in 1st and 2nd Maccabees. So, I love the symbolism. I like the idea. So, how should we react and celebrate Hanukkah? Why are we celebrating it today? One, because no matter what it looks like in your life, you can trust God. Two, it's all about light. It's about sharing light, even in persecution, even when it's doubtful, right? We have the light that the world needs, Jesus Christ. And sometimes it's hard to share it, sometimes it's not. I was talking to one of the gals here tonight. She goes, I kept saying, Happy Hanukkah, waiting for them to ask me so I could tell them about Jesus and why I think Hanukkah and Jesus fit together, right? And I go, that's awesome. That's how we should be, ready to speak about the light. Now, it's up to God whether they accept it or push it away. But we got to be ready always to share and go, I can tell you something that will change your life. I can tell you why, no matter what's in my life, I can have peace. Right? How many people have told others about what's going on in their life when either you're in trouble and they're going, how do you go through this? Or when they're in trouble and they ask you to help. Right? That's many times when we get an opportunity to talk about Jesus and everything that has to do with eternal life. I'm going to skip through this. I can't do the whole thing tonight. There's more. I'll do more next week because we have another night to this, which is kind of neat. Hanukkah is a memorial of one time in the New Testament, feast dedication took place in Jerusalem. It was winter. He walked in the temple. As we go through and look at these things, why would Jesus be there if he didn't think it was worthwhile? And when he got there, he immediately had tension. He immediately had division. He immediately had someone to oppose what he was doing. We have to be ready for that, and not in a way that brings our own fleshly responses, which I have to be careful of, because I can be pretty blunt, and some of you are the same way. I know you, some of you aren't. And we still have to be able to speak truth. What is this about? Why are we doing this? Many say, what's a Christian doing celebrating Hanukkah? That's a Jewish thing. There's only one tree, right? Gentiles are grafted in with a warning, don't get too uppity. If I can pull off the natural branches, I can pull off the grafted in branches a whole lot easier. So as we celebrate this and look back, it's a spiritual, kind of like what you inherited. It's your spiritual history that a small group, when the largest army on the planet was trying to snuff out following God the way he said to follow him, rose up and with God's strength stopped it. And then because of that, a miracle to seal it that this was God and it couldn't be anybody else. In our lives today, I think that we can see we have need for God in this time. How many times have you heard, how many listen to different types of news than the regular mainstream? Yeah, you won't get the whole story if you don't listen to that. And if you need some sources, I got a bunch I put in my phone because there's some really good news outlets that actually let you hear what people say and not tell you what to think, which is kind of interesting. If we don't understand these things, how can we talk to people in a way that brings truth and light? Otherwise, it's over. How many have heard on these news stations that this is the end of America as we know it unless something happens? How many have heard we're not maybe going to go back to normal anymore? They use a new phrase, the new normal. I don't want none of the new normal. I want what we had, freedom to do. Whose business is there if I wear a mask or not? If I want to die, I want to die. You wear a mask. I know where I'm going. But yet, you can't do that because you get out. If you offend people, how can you tell them about Christ? We're in a very strange place right now. How do you move? When I was up north, there was no masks. Everybody was just like they were every other day. I came back to Phoenix, oh yeah, I got to go back and get a mask so I don't offend, right? So anyway, as we come to this, I go, we can celebrate. I mean, many people are going, the end is near. We're going to celebrate tonight. We're going to light the lights. We're going to remember that God does miracles that can overpower anything in our lives. Any kind of darkness, God can push back. And we're going to celebrate that tonight as we light our candles and have a great meal. And that's pretty much the part of Hanukkah I want to talk. We'll get into some details next week, maybe a little bit, as we do our next celebration on the last night. Or some of you guys will finish and have another last night if you come back this week. But it depends on which calendar you choose to follow. So anyway, that's pretty much Hanukkah in a nutshell. So tonight we're going to remember these things. So let's get started. And there's a couple blessings on the first night we'll read, and then we'll get ready and light the candlelights. And I want to mention, can we play that video? Where'd you go? Okay. I've got matches in my truck, if we need them. Okay. And he's got a lighter we can pass around. That's enough, so we'll make the right. Okay. Fern, can you stand up so you can see? I hate to put you on the spot. I didn't tell you this. But I'll do it anyway. Fern's a blessing. She's been with us for a long time. I met Fern years ago when she came to Christ at one of the Passovers we started doing. And she has just done amazing stuff for God. She had a whole dance company for God and did just all kinds of great stuff. And she also teaches and does a lot of stuff. We had her 8 nights of Hanukkah video that we're going to show you guys. And then if you want it, you can get it. So you have a thought each night, a great thought about Hanukkah. But with our technical, wonderful things, it didn't quite work. So we'll try, we can get you that if you want it and you want to watch that. And then I want to tell you that she's going to start a class on basic Hebrew in January. So if you're interested, let us know. We'll be finished with the book and we can get right into some basic Hebrew. And we'll tell you what night where it's going to be. So that's the plug for your class. And glad you're back. We haven't seen you in a while since this COVID stuff started. But sorry we couldn't play the video. You know what we can do is people can play it on their phones. It's really, it's good. It gives you things to think about all 8 nights. Really well based. So let's get ready to light our candles. Who needs fire at their table? This one and that one. What's that? Nick, you're awesome. Love this guy. Anybody else need a light? One over there, one over here. If somebody wants to run to the truck, I've got matches. You're good?
We're good.
We can share. Right? We can share. Okay, so I'll put you on the spot again. Can you, off the top of your head, do it in Hebrew, and then I'll read it? Okay, so we'll do the blessings tonight. She helps me a lot. I've been doing Passovers for years. My challenge is half the time I really mess up the Hebrew. But I get a little better each year. Not that much. She's helped me get better. So go ahead, and then I will read in English, sort of paraphrase.
Blessings first and then lighting.
Is that how you want to go? Which way you want to go? I'm looking at my notes. It's either way. I mean, usually...
Lady at the table,
There we go.
get your lighter ready.
One of the ladies light the candles. And we start with which side?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to read or recite the traditional Hebrew blessing. Okay, it's a traditional Hebrew blessing. And then Pastor Todd's going to give you an English rendition and some additional blessings that are, again, traditional, but we want to make sure anything you do that's tradition, don't do it because it's tradition. Do it
Right.
because it points to Jesus.
Yeah, if
All
you
right?
don't
Remember
understand.
that, the tradition. It
Well,
does
I-
point to Jesus.
When I first did the first Hanukkah at home, I took a pretty traditional set of prayers. But I had to change a couple things. It didn't change the meaning because they talk about the Word and that God brought us to the Word. Well, the Word is Jesus Christ. So I just simply added, and through your commandments and through Jesus Christ. Who's the Word? Jesus. Who wrote the commandments? Guess what? He did. So all I had to do is make it messianic by saying that it's Jesus that gives us those things. So, okay, here we go.
Okay, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehavik ner shel Hanukkah. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, now, blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us by his commandments and has given us Yeshua, the Messiah, the light of the world. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who performed miracles for our ancestors in those days at this time. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has kept us alive and sustained us and enabled us to reach this season. Okay, that's the blessing. Now we'll do Can you do the lighting and do the, and we'll get them lit and then I'll read
I'll
the others.
explain it.
Explain it and do the prayer in
Does
English too.
everybody see that there is one candle a little separated from the rest on your menorah? Ladies, whoever's going to light it is going to take that one out of the holder. That is called a shamash, the shamash. That is the servant candle. That candle is what lights everything else. So where Jesus is our light, this represents him lighting everything and everybody else. So you're going to light that first, and then once you've lit that, use that to light the candle on the menorah, set it in its place above everything else, and then we're done.
Simple.
Are we setting the candles from right to left and lighting it from left to
We've
right?
only got one, so just do it.
Well, you can turn it either way. See, it's on my left side of your right, so half of us will be right.
So let's stretch your face.
There you go. All right, we got them almost lit. Only my daughter is struggling. She got it. I wasn't. I was encouraging you. You were great under pressure. All right. We got things going here. Let me read a couple things. Yeshua, the light of the world. Yeshua spoke to them again, saying, I am the light of the world. The one who follows me will no longer walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. That was John 8:12. As light I come into the world so that everyone who trusts in me should not remain in darkness. That's, again, John 12:46. So that you may proclaim the praises of the one who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. 1 Peter 2:9. Yeshua, you performed a miracle of light so many years ago in Israel's history. But you also performed a miracle of light in our lives by rescuing us from the darkness of life without you. You have called us to walk with you in your light, and it's marvelous. Thank you for loving us so much that you would die in our place